That kiss lingered in the stale air of the fitting room like smoke from a back alley bonfire, thick and impossible to wave away. I pulled back first, gasping, my fingers digging into the rough fabric of his store polo as if it were the only thing keeping me upright. Everett's eyes, those sharp green ones that always seemed to see too much, locked onto mine, wide with a vulnerability I'd never clocked before. Not the cocky retail drone slinging merch to hungover freshmen, but a guy unraveling, thread by thread. "What the fuck, Everett?" I managed, my voice a hoarse whisper that barely cut through the hum of the AC unit rattling in the vents. The campus store at UC Berkeley was my reluctant haunt every fall semester. A squat brick building wedged between the student union and a chain coffee shop, smelling of new vinyl and stale popcorn from the adjacent arcade. I'd come in that day hunting for a jacket to layer over my threadbare tees, something to armor up against the Bay Area fog that clung to my bones like regret. Berkeley was supposed to be my fresh start after the shit show back in Ohio. Conservative folks, a dad who preached tough love, like it was gospel, and a high school closet so deep I'd buried my own reflection in it. But here I was, 21 and still fumbling, majoring in environmental policy because it felt like fighting for something bigger than myself. Everett didn't flinch at my words. Instead, he let out a shaky laugh, running a hand through his messy chestnut hair that always looked like it had been styled by a stiff breeze off the Pacific. "Yeah, I know. Epic timing, right? Middle of a shift, curtain half drawn, and you're probably thinking I'm some creep who spikes the free coffee." He stepped back, palms up in surrender, but his gaze didn't waver. It pinned me there, against the cold glass, making my pulse stutter like a skipped heartbeat. I swallowed hard, tasting the faint salt of his skin on my lips. "You can't just do that. Not here. Not to me," I wanted to say, but the words lodged in my throat. Because part of me, the part I'd shoved down since puberty hit like a sucker punch, had wondered. The way he'd linger at the counter when I checked out, asking about my classes with that easy drawl that screamed SoCal transplant. The free stickers he'd slip into my bag. Ironic ones about saving the redwoods or whatever eco-rant I'd mumbled about that week. It wasn't flirtation, not exactly. More like breadcrumbs leading somewhere I wasn't ready to follow. "Benjamin Hayes," he said, my full name rolling off his tongue like he'd rehearsed it in the mirror. "I've watched you come in here every Thursday for the last 2 months, picking at flannels like they're puzzles you can't solve. And every time, you look at me like I'm the one thing in this store that doesn't fit." He paused, his Adam's apple bobbing as he fought for breath. "Truth? I don't fit anywhere. Not with my family back in San Diego. Not in this dead-end job shelving hoodies for kids who think they're changing the world with their protest signs. But you make me want to try." The curtain rustled behind him. Some co-ed browsing graphic tees, and we both froze, the world crashing back in like a cold wave. I shoved past him, heart jackrabbiting, and bolted for the exit, the bell above the door jangling like an accusation. Outside, the quad was alive with the golden haze of late October sun. Students sprawled on the grass with laptops and lukewarm lattes, debating Foucault or whatever passed for deep thought these days. I leaned against a eucalyptus tree, its bark rough under my palms, and tried to steady my breathing. What the hell had just happened? 1 minute I'm dodging small talk about sustainable cotton, the next I'm lip-locked with the guy who's probably got my coffee order memorized. My phone buzzed in my pocket. A text from my roommate, Jax, asking if I'd grabbed the beer for movie night. Normalcy. That's what I needed. But as I trudged back to my off-campus apartment in the shadow of the Campanile, Everett's words echoed, burrowing under my skin like fog through cracked windows. By the time I collapsed onto my futon, surrounded by dog-eared textbooks on climate justice and half-empty takeout containers, I couldn't shake it. The stunned feeling wasn't just shock. It was recognition, like staring into a mirror after years of averting your eyes. That night, sleep dodged me like a pro. I tossed in the thin sheets, the distant hum of BART trains rumbling under the floorboards like the undercurrent of the city itself. Berkeley wasn't just a college town. It was a pressure cooker of ideals and identities, where kids from every corner of America collided in a haze of weed smoke and radical zines. I'd come here chasing reinvention, but reinvention meant facing the parts of me I'd left rotting back home. The crushes on baseball teammates I'd dismissed as bro stuff. The way my stomach flipped when a guy in lit class quoted Whitman with that fire in his eyes. Gay? Maybe. Fluid? Who knew? But whatever label fit. It terrified me because labels came with stakes. Family holidays turning sour, whispers in the dorms, the fear of becoming the punchline in someone else's story. By dawn, resolve hardened in my gut like cooling lava. I couldn't ghost this. Not after he'd laid himself bare in a goddamn fitting room. So I laced up my boots, threw on the sweater from yesterday, the one that smelled faintly of his cologne now, and headed back to the store. The campus was stirring. Joggers pounding the paths, baristas calling orders from the truck parked by Memorial Glade. Inside, the store was quiet, fluorescent aisles stretching like empty promises. Everett was at the register restocking gum, his back to me. He turned, and for a split second, hope flickered in his eyes before shutters slammed down. "Benjamin," he said, voice flat as the counter between us. "Come to return that kiss with a complaint form?" I leaned on the edge, close enough to catch the mint on his breath. "Nah," came to say. "You stunned me, in a good way, but we gotta talk. For real, not behind a curtain." His smile cracked through, tentative, like sunlight piercing clouds over the Golden Gate. "Coffee? There's a spot down by the creek. No fitting rooms involved." We walked in silence at first, the crunch of fallen leaves underfoot syncing with my pulse. Strawberry Creek babbled alongside us, hidden in a grove of oaks that felt worlds away from the lecture halls. He bought us both black coffees from a cart. Strong, no frills, the way Californians pretended they weren't soft under the grit. We sat on a weathered bench, steam curling between us like question marks. "I'm Everett Kane," he started, as if we hadn't shared breath yesterday. 22, film major dropout, slinging threads because rent doesn't pay itself. Grew up in a beach town where out meant surfing at dawn, not this. He gestured vaguely between us. Dad's a cop, mom's a teacher. Straight arrow types. I didn't come out till I got here, and even then, it was mostly to myself in dive bars till 2 a.m. I nodded, sipping the bitter brew. Benjamin Hayes, Ohio transplant. Eco-nerd trying not to drown in policy papers. Back home, being queer? That's the kind of thing that gets you a one-way ticket to pray it away camp. I hesitated, the words heavy on my tongue. I've never done this. Dated a guy. Hell, kissed one. So yeah, you stunned me. But I'm here. His hand found mine then, tentative fingers lacing through, warm against the chill morning air. It wasn't fireworks or violins, just right, like slipping into a jacket that finally fit. We talked for hours. About his half-finished screenplays scribbled on napkins. My dreams of lobbying for green bills in D.C. laughter bubbled up, easy and unforced, cutting through the awkward edges. By noon, when the sun climbed high and students picnicked nearby, I realized I hadn't thought about running once. That week blurred into a montage of stolen moments, the kind that make you believe in rom-coms despite yourself. Study breaks turned into walks along the marina, where we'd skip stones into the bay and debate if the fog was romantic or just moody. He'd text me lines from Kerouac at midnight. I'd counter with stats on ocean acidification, turning facts into flirtation. One evening, as we sprawled on a blanket in the botanical gardens, fireflies winking like conspirators, he traced patterns on my palm and said, "You're the plot twist I didn't see coming, Ben." I believed him. God, I did. In the glow of string lights at off-campus parties, body swaying to indie tracks, his arm around my waist felt like armor against the stairs. Curious, not cruel, in this bubble of progress. Berkeley let us breathe, let us be. But bubbles burst, and mine started fraying the night Jax cornered me in the kitchen. Jax was perched on the counter, nursing a beer, his tattooed arms crossed like he was guarding state secrets. Our apartment, a cramped two-bedroom above a taqueria on Telegraph Avenue, reeked of sizzling carnitas and unwashed socks, the soundtrack of broke college life. "So, who's the mystery dude you've been ghosting game nights for?" he asked, eyebrow arched in that knowing way that made me want to punch him. Jax was straight, gloriously so, with a parade of art majors rotating through our couch, but he'd clocked my vibes early.
Spill, Hayes.
Or I'll start calling you Benji, till you crack. I cracked a soda, buying time. It's nothing, just seeing someone. The lie tasted sour because it wasn't nothing. Everett had become the axis my days spun on. Late-night drives up to Tilden Park, windows down, wind whipping through as we blasted Springsteen and shouted lyrics about Born to Run Hearts. He'd park at the Overlook, city lights sprawling below like a promise, and we'd kiss slow, hands respectful but hungry, mapping each other in the dark. Jax snorted. Bullshit. I saw you grinning at your phone like an idiot during that climate rally. Dude's got you hooked. He paused, eyes softening. Good for you, man. Just be careful. This town's full of dreamers, but dreams got sharp edges. His words haunted me as I slipped out later, meeting Everett at a hole-in-the-wall diner off San Pablo Avenue. The place was pure Americana. Vinyl booths cracked like old smiles, jukebox crooning Patsy Cline, waitresses calling you Han, with coffee refills that never ended. We slid into a corner spot, knees brushing under the Formica table, and ordered the blue plate special, meatloaf and mashed, comfort food for souls still figuring out their shape. Tell me something real, I said, fork hovering over my plate. Why me? Campus stores got a revolving door of pretty faces. Everett's fork stilled, his gaze dropping to the checkered tablecloth. Because you don't perform. Everyone else? They're peacocking, tattoos for show, manifestos like armor. You just are quiet fire. Like that time you argued with the prof about carbon credits. Voice steady but eyes blazing. Hit me like a gut punch. He reached across, thumb brushing my knuckles. Plus, you hate the store's kale chips. Makes you human. I laughed, but inside, warmth spread like sunlight on fog-damp streets. We lingered till closing, the neon open sign flickering out behind us, then wandered the empty sidewalks, hands swinging loose until our fingers hooked. That night, he walked me home, stopping under the street lamp outside my building. The air hummed with distant traffic, crickets chirping from the overgrown lot next door. Ben, he murmured, pulling me close. This feels like the start of something epic, like we're scripting our own goddamn movie. Our lips met, soft and sure, the world narrowing to the press of his chest against mine. No rush, no demands. Just us, breathing each other in. As he pulled away, whispering goodnight, I watched him vanish into the night, silhouette sharp against the sodium glow. Back in my room, Jax was passed out, snoring like a chainsaw, but sleep evaded me again. I scrolled through photos on my phone. Us at the flea market in Oakland, haggling over vintage records. A blurry selfie from the beach at Point Reyes, waves crashing as we raced the tide. Happiness, unfiltered. But Jax's warning gnawed sharp edges. The edges sharpened 2 weeks later, on a rainy Saturday when the sky over the hills turned biblical gray. I'd planned a low-key day, library grind followed by Everett's shift ending early, then hole up with takeout and his latest script draft. But as I crossed the quad, dodging puddles that mirrored the overcast mood, my phone lit up with a call from an unknown number. Ohio area code. My stomach dropped like a stone in the creek. Benjamin. The voice was my cousin Lila's, edged with that Midwestern clip that always sounded like apology. It's Dad. He had a heart scare. Not major, but he's asking for you. Flights are cheap if you book now, please, Ben. He misses you. Misses me. The words twisted like barbed wire. Dad hadn't missed me when he found my hidden copy of Stonewall Histories under the mattress. His face twisting into that disappointed mask before he muttered about fixing me. Our last call, months back, ended with him hanging up after I dodged questions about that girl you're seeing. But family pulls like gravity, unrelenting. I booked the red eye, texted Everett a vague family emergency, and packed a duffel with the jacket he'd picked out, the one that still carried his scent. Ohio welcomed me with flat fields and biting wind, the kind that slices through flannel like judgment. The hospital room smelled of bleach and wilted carnations. Dad propped up in bed, pale but bullheaded, for dripping steady as his lectures. Mom hovered, wringing her hands, her perm frizzing in the dry air. "Ben, honey," she said, hugging me tight enough to crack ribs. "You came. That's something." We talked surface level. Weather, my grades, the farm's bumper corn yield. Dad gripped my hand, rough from years of tractor work, and rasped, "Proud of you, son. Keep your head down. Make something of yourself." No mention of the elephant, the one with rainbow tusks, trampling the room. But as I sat there, watching monitors beep like accusations, guilt coiled in my chest. Was I running from them or to something real? Back in Berkeley 3 days later, jet-lagged and raw, I headed straight to the campus store. Everett was mid-shift, folding jeans with that focused frown that made my chest ache. He spotted me through the racks, dropped everything, and pulled me into the stockroom. A dim cave of cardboard boxes and hanging tags, the door clicking shut behind us. "Ben," he breathed, arms wrapping around me like lifelines. "You okay?" Your texts were sparse. I buried my face in his shoulder, inhaling the familiar mix of starch and sea salt. Family crap, Dad's sick, made me think about all the shit I left behind. I pulled back, searching his face. "But I'm glad I came back. To this. To you." His smile was a sunrise, but shadowed. "Missed you. More than I should admit after 2 weeks." He kissed my forehead, lingering. "Hey, got something for you. Close your eyes." When I did, something cool slipped onto my wrist. A leather cord bracelet, braided with a tiny silver compass pendant. "For when you're lost," he murmured. "Points true north, or whatever direction your heart's pulling." Tears pricked, unbidden. "Everett, But the stockroom door banged open, his manager barking about inventory. We broke apart, laughing breathlessly, but the moment stuck, a talisman against the gathering storm. The storm hit mid-November, leaves turning the quad to fire as midterms loomed like guillotines. I'd been dodging Lila's follow-ups, updates on Dad's recovery laced with probes about my social life, when Everett invited me to his place for the first time. He lived in a converted garage behind a Victorian in the Northside Hills. Rent split with 2 other film wannabes who were perpetually in post on non-existent shorts. The space was chaos. Posters of Scorsese flicks peeling from walls, a projector screen rigged from bedsheets, empty ramen cups forming modern art on the floor. "Welcome to the lair," he said, gesturing grandly as he lit candles. Cheap ones from the store, flickering like they were in on the joke. Pizza arrived, greasy and glorious, and we devoured it cross-legged on his futon, trading stories about childhood fuck-ups. His sneaking out to queer poetry slams in high school, heart pounding as he read verses about boys who burned bright. Mine, burying comics under floorboards, dreaming of cities where love didn't come with footnotes. As the night deepened, rain pattering on the tin roof like Morse code, we curled up under a quilt patched from old band tees, his head on my chest, fingers tracing lazy circles on my arm. "Ben," he whispered into the dark, "I love you, not the easy kind, the kind that scares me shitless." My breath caught, the words a spark in dry tinder. "I love you too," I said, voice thick, scary and all. We kissed then, slow and deep, the world outside fading to white noise. It was the closest we'd come to vulnerability's edge, teetering without falling. But edges have a way of giving way. Thanksgiving loomed like a family obligation wrapped in turkey and passive aggression, but Everett had a plan. A queer potluck thrown by his film crew buddies in an old warehouse by the warehouse district. "No forced small talk," he promised, packing deviled eggs with that boyish concentration. "Just food, films, and folks who get it." I nodded, but Ohio's ghost clung. Mom's voicemails piling up, Dad's gruff, "Come home, son," echoing in my inbox. I'd postponed the trip, citing finals prep, but truth was, facing them meant facing questions I wasn't ready for. "What about your family?" I asked, zipping my hoodie against the chill creeping in early that year. "You skipping San Diego?" His jaw tightened just a flicker. "Yeah, they know about me, sort of. But holidays? Too much." He shrugged, masking it with a grin. Besides, who'd make you dance to bad 80s synth if I bailed? The potluck was a fever dream of Berkeley's underbelly. Exposed brick walls strung with Edison bulbs, tables groaning under vegan lasagnas and gluten-free pies. A projector looping grainy clips of outcast anthems from Paris is burning to moonlight. Everett's arm stayed loose around my waist as we mingled. Introductions to tattooed directors with nose rings. Poets reciting odes to leather daddies over spiked punch. Laughter flowed easy, the kind that fills cracks you didn't know were there. For the first time I felt seen, not as the Ohio kid playing catch-up, but as Ben, full stop. We slipped away midway, finding a quiet corner amid stacked crates. The bass from a DIY DJ set thrumming through the floor. "This," I said, gesturing at the chaos, "is magic." His eyes lit, and he pulled me into a slow sway. No rhythm needed, just us. "You're my magic," he murmured, lips brushing my ear. But as he spoke, his phone buzzed. Insistent, ignored at first, then checked with a frown. "Shit, work thing. Managers on a tear about holiday stock." He pocketed it, but the spell cracked. Back at his place, buzz fading to quiet intimacy, the fracture widened. We were tangled on the futon. His script pages scattered like fallen leaves, when he sat up abruptly. "Ben, there's something. I should have told you sooner." My stomach nodded. "What?" He rubbed his neck, eyes on the rain-streaked window. "Remember how I said I'm a dropout? Truth is, I left USC after one semester. Debts piled up. Folks cut me off when I came out. Been scraping by, but there's this guy. From back then. Investor type, offered to fund my next short if I..." He trailed off, face ashen. "If you what?" My voice came out sharper than intended. "Nothing happened, swear. But he emailed last week, pushing boundaries. I ghosted him, but it stirred shit up. Made me feel like I'm still that scared kid, trading pieces of myself for a shot. Relief mixed with something sharper. Jealousy? Fear? Why hide it? We're in this, Everett. No secrets. I know. Just didn't want to taint us." He reached for me, but I pulled back, the air thickening. Us isn't tainted by truth. It's the lies that do that. I stood, grabbing my keys. Need air. The drive home was a blur of wet streets and wipers slapping rhythm like accusations. Jax was out, the apartment echoing empty. I crashed on the couch, replaying his words. Investor guy. Boundaries. It gnawed, not because I doubted him, but because doubt had roots in my own soil, years of hiding, of half-truths to survive. Days blurred into a cold snap, our texts turning polite, sparse. I threw myself into finals. Papers on wetland restoration, exams that blurred into white noise. Everett showed up once, outside my poli-sci lecture, rain sheeting off his hood. "Ben, talk to me. Please." I wanted to. God, I did. But the words stuck. "Not now. Too much." His face crumpled, but he nodded. "Okay. But I'm not going anywhere." Christmas break hit like a sucker punch. Solo in Berkeley, Jack's off to Portland. The city emptying to a ghost town of twinkling lights and shuttered storefronts. I worked retail shifts at a holiday pop-up, hawking ornaments to tourists, the irony bitter. Texts from home piled. Mom's recipes, Dad's recovery updates, Lila's "we love you anyway." Anyway, the word stung. New Year's Eve I caved. Drove to Everett's. The hills slick with mist. His garage door creaking open like an invitation. He was there, script in hand, eyes lighting like dawn. "Ben." I kissed him before words could fail, desperate to reclaim what distance had stolen. We tumbled inside, shedding coats and doubts, the night unfolding in whispers and touches that skirted the line but never crossed. Intimate, not invasive. Fireworks cracked over the bay at midnight, visible through the skylight. And as we watched, tangled and warm, he said, "This year's ours. No more hiding." I believed it. Spring semester dawned crisp, cherry blossoms dusting the paths like confetti. We rebuilt. Coffee dates in the Free Speech Movement Cafe, where we dissect his latest scene over scones. Hikes in the Berkeley Hills, lungs burning as we crested ridges with views to the glittering fault lines below. Love deepened, roots twisting through the cracks. Him quoting Ginsberg at dawn, me dragging him to Earth Day rallies, our hands linked in the crowd. But roots tangle with weeds. Late April, during a brutal heat wave that turned the bay to a shimmering haze, the betrayal bloomed. I'd been prepping for a big presentation on urban rewilding, buried in the biosciences library, when my phone pinged, a photo from an unknown sender. Everett, arm around a guy in a sleek suit, outside a Hollywood club. Caption: "Missed you at the rap party, E. Let's make magic again." Heart in throat, I drove to the store, the AC blasting cold against fevered skin. He was in the fitting room alcove, helping a customer, but when he saw me, face thunderous. He excused himself, following me out back to the loading dock, crates of unsold teas sweating in the sun. "Ben, wait. Who's are?" I thrust the phone at him, voice cracking. "The investor? The one with boundaries." His face drained of color. "Ryan." "Yeah." "He cornered me at a networking thing last month. Film fest in the city. I went alone, thought it was professional. He got handsy, I shut it down. This photo? Staged. He photoshopped it or some shit. I swear." "Lies." "Everett." Again. Rage boiled over, hot and unbidden. "You said no secrets. But here we are, me finding out like some bad Lifetime movie." "It's not." He stepped closer, hands out.
Ben, listen.
"I love you. Only you. This is paranoia from my past biting back." But the dock spun, trust fracturing like glass under heel. Paranoia? Or pattern? I can't. I backed away, tears blurring the chain link fence. "I need space. Real space." He reached, but I jerked free, storming to my car. Tires squealed as I peeled out, the campus a smear of green and gold. Back home, Jax found me curled on the floor, photo clutched like evidence. "Fuck, man," he said, sliding down beside me. "Hearts are messy, but running, that just leaves you alone with the mess." I didn't run far. Nights blurred into sobs and silence. Finals of fog I stumbled through. Everett's texts came in waves. Apologies, poems, pleas, then trickled to nothing. Silence screamed loudest. Graduation week arrived, caps and gowns fluttering like flags of uncertain futures. I'd landed an internship in DC, green policy gig that felt like purpose. Everett? Whispers said he'd sold a script, heading to LA for pilot season. Fitting dream chasers to opposite coasts. The ceremony was a blur of speeches and cheers. The Greek theater packed under a sky so blue it mocked my gray. I scanned the crowd from the stage, diploma heavy in my grip, but no familiar green eyes. Jax hooped from the bleachers, but as confetti rained, hollow echoed in my chest. Post-grad party at a frat house turned dive bar. Beers flowing, futures toasted. But I slipped out early, wandering the empty quad under stars sharp as accusations. My phone buzzed as I reached the store. Closed now, windows dark as regrets. Everett. "Meet me? One last time. Fitting room. Please." Against better judgment, I went. The door was unlocked, a sliver of light spilling from the back. Heart pounding. I slipped inside, the bell silent for once. The fitting room curtain parted, and there he was, leaning against the mirror, same spot, looking wrecked. Shadows under eyes, hair unkempt, a duffel at his feet. "Ben," he said, voice raw as gravel. "No green, no script. Just him." "You leaving?" I asked, nodding at the bag.
Ella.
He nodded. "Sold the short. Pilot pickup. Everything I wanted." Pause. Heavy. "But without you, it's hollow." Words I'd longed to hear, but too late. "You broke us, Everett." With half-truths. "I can't rebuild on sand." He stepped forward, close enough for cologne to twist the knife. "I know. I fucked up. Hid because losing you scared me more than any investor or family fallout. But Ben, that photo? Ryan's revenge. I reported him, got a restraining order. Proof's in my email if you..." "Stop." My voice broke. "It's not just that. It's the pattern. Me always waiting for the other shoe. I came out here to be whole, not pieced. Tears tracked his cheeks, unashamed. Then let me be your glue. One more chance. We script a new act. Honest. No cuts. The air thickened. Memories crashing. Creekside confessions, hilltop kisses, potluck dances. Love didn't vanish. It scarred. Reshaped. I thought of Dad's hospital grip, Mom's anyway. Forgiveness is bridge, not erasure. And Jax's words. Messy hearts. I closed the gap, hands framing his face, thumbs brushing salt. Not glue. Equals. No hiding. Ever. His breath hitched, lips crashing to mine. Fierce. Forgiving. The stunned spark reigniting. Not perfect, but real. We broke apart gasping, foreheads pressed. Equals. He echoed. Deal. He didn't leave for LA that night. We talked till dawn in the empty store. Aisles witnesses to truth spilled. His fears of abandonment, my terror of rejection. By sunrise, gilding the windows, we emerged changed, scarred, but stronger. He deferred the gig 6 months. I extended the DC start. Time to root here in the fog and fight. Months later, summer heat baking the pavement. We stood on that loading dock. Hand in hand, scripts and policy briefs traded like vows. I called home, voice steady. Dad, Mom, meet Everett. He's family now. Silence. Then Mom's soft, we're listening, honey. Baby steps, but steps. Everett squeezed my hand, compass bracelet glinting. True north. I grinned, pulling him toward the quad. Damn right, with detours for fitting rooms. Life isn't a movie, no tidy fade to credits. Its acts overlapping, conflicts unresolved. Love a verb you conjugate daily. But in the sprawl of America, from Berkeley's radical pulse to whatever coast calls next, we chose each other. Messy, human, whole. And in that choice we found grace. Not ending, but beginning anew.